Good day, future RMDs. In this lecture, what we are going to discuss is all about malarial parasites. Our learning objectives are as follows. Number one, to recall the morphology, life cycle, pathogenesis, epidemiology of sporozoans, including the malarial parasites, and of course, to distinguish the diagnostic features of malarial parasites. To start with, okay, we said that malaria, no, is a condition that is being caused by Plasmodium species. Plasmodium species is the causative agent of malaria. Mahalagang maliwanag sa atin yon. Malaria is not a parasite, but malaria is an example of parasitic infection caused by Plasmodium species. Another thing that I want you to remember is that mosquito is not the one that causes malaria. Mosquito is the one that vectors the infection from an infected individual going to a healthy individual where the gametocytes of the Plasmodium species will be inoculated into the bloodstream of the patient. Mahalaga maliwanag yun. Plasmodium species, including Plasmodium ovale, Plasmodium falciparum, Plasmodium vivax, Malariae, and Plasmodium knowlesi. Those are the five most commonly known to cause malaria. And it is not the mosquito. Mosquito is the vector, particularly Anopheles. Now, malaria remains the leading disease that causes mortality worldwide. Well, I know that most of you are familiar on what is mortality and what is morbidity because you took epidemiology and you are taking uh, community and public health. And like what I've said, there are four species that are important to humans. Actually, five na sila ngayon, including Plasmodium knowlesi. Okay. If we are going to take a look with the data coming from the WHO, no, on the year 2017, there was an estimate of 219 million people who contracted or who are being infected with malaria. 18% incidence rate, global decrease in malaria incidence between 2010 to 2017, and a mortality rate of 28%, decreased in global malaria death between 2010 to 2017. So it's nice, no? Why? Because based on the data from the WHO, if you can see, this data was taken from the WHO in the year 2020, no last year. Okay? And we can say that nababa, but I want you to remember, guys, that malaria is one of the top 10 leading or one of the top 10 neglected tropical diseases, the NTDs. Akala nila wala na, but there's still malaria is occurring. Okay? Now, the question is the causative agent of 90% cases of malaria. Take note of this, people of God, that 90% of malaria is caused by Plasmodium vivax. And of course, Plasmodium falciparum. Plasmodium vivax is almost synonymous with Plasmodium ovale. Plasmodium falciparum is known to be the deadliest malaria. Okay? Another question was, what are the two phases of malarial life cycle? Take note that there are two phases of malarial life cycle. Number one, we have the asexual phase, and of course, we have the sexual phase. Okay, so we have the sexual phase and the sexual phase. So we have here your Schizogony and Sporogony. No? Schizogony and Sporogony. So what is Schizogony and what is Sporogony? Okay, so mamaya pag-usapan natin yan in the life cycle. Now, where does the, ito na, where does the asexual life cycle occurs and what is the term associated in that phase. So we said that there are two phases of the life cycle of malarial parasites, the asexual phase and the sexual phase. When we said asexual phase, it means it is the Schizogony. No? Asexual phase means the Schizogony. And take note that asexual phase of malarial parasite took place in men, in man, the host. Okay? Sa host, sa man, nangyayari ang asexual reproduction of our malarial parasites. And that asexual reproduction is known to be your schizogony. Well, of course, the sexual phase occurs naman sa vector. And sexual phase is known to be your sporogony. No? Sexual phase, sporogony, vector. Take note that Anopheles mosquitoes serves as the vector. No? Anopheles mosquito serves as the vector. Like what I've said in the introduction a while ago, sila yung nagdadala ng infection. From an insect bite or blood meal from an infected individual going to the another victim, inoculating the sporozoites, which are the infective stages, then the infective stage, then ano yung nangyari? Nabigay niya, napasa niya yung ating malarial parasite. I want you to take note of this, people of God. Anopheles mosquito is not just the vector. Anopheles mosquito is not just the vector, but also serves as the definitive host of malarial parasite. Okay? So that is our malarial parasite. That is our Anopheles mosquito. Anopheles mosquito serves as the vector capable of transmitting. And this vector is an important part of the life cycle of our parasite. And at the same time, it serves as the definitive host where the sexual reproduction happen. All right. It will be nice if we will have here a diagram, no? And this is the asexual phase that took place in man. Ano yung nangyayari? Sabi natin, this no malarial species, allow me to write, allow me to point what I am saying. This malarial parasite, no, Anopheles mosquito. Okay, this Anopheles mosquito ay nag-undergo siya ng blood meal. Okay? Nag-undergo ng blood meal. It will be better if I will write. Okay? Again, this Plasmodium species or Plasmodium malarial, let me make myself clear. This mosquito, no, Anopheles mosquito, ay nagkaroon ng blood meal. Okay? This is an infected Anopheles mosquito. Again, guys, infected mosquito. Why infected mosquito? Because it tawag dito, nagkaroon siya ng blood meal from an infected individual. No? Nakuha niya yung blood of a blood from a patient with infection of malaria. Now what will happen? This mosquito will do another blood meal no, will do another blood meal to unhealthy individual who will be now an infected individual. Okay? Take note, guys, that the Anopheles mosquito usually is the female Anopheles mosquito, which is capable of transmitting the parasite from one person to another. The female Anopheles mosquito which serves as the definitive host bites the man, bites the man by injecting sporozoites. Okay? By injecting sporozoites. And take note, people of God, that these sporozoites is considered as the infective stage. Okay? That is considered as the infective stage that will initiate infection to the human. Now, what will happen? The cryptozoites develop into the liver cells. Okay? The cryptozoites develops in the liver cells two merozoites. Okay? So from cryptozoites, no, from cryptozoites to merozoites, the development of cryptozoites to merozoites took place in the liver of an individual. Now, what will happen? No, the conversion or the development of cryptozoites in the liver cells to merozoites, no, will complete what we call exoerythrocytic stage. Ito yung one of the difference between Plasmodium and Babesia. Si Plasmodium is capable of what we call exoerythrocytic cycle. Exoerythrocytic cycle. Yan. Plasmodium species is capable of what we call exoerythrocytic cycle. Si Babesia species, wala siyang ganun eh. Okay? Hindi siya nag-exoerythrocytic cycle. So what will happen? The merozoites will enter into the red cells. The merozoites will enter into the red cells, infecting the RBC. Take note, people of God, no, take note. Yung pong ating RBC, yan yung organ or yan yung site of the infection. Yan. In the liver cells, ganito yung nangyayari. No, the development of cryptozoites to merozoites. And then, nagkakameron ng exoerythrocytic cycle in, okay? And then, the merozoites will invade or will infect our red cells. Okay? Ini-invade yung red cells. Ngayon, ano yung mangyayari dito? There will be a ring formation, the ring trophozoite, which can be seen in the peripheral blood smear or in the thick and thin blood smear of the patient that will be used for the identification. The ring trophozoite will mature to scissions, no? And the scissions will contains the merozoites and then release on the red cells. That's why after it release on the red cells, there will be what we call the rupture of the red cells. And if there is a rupture of red cells, the next thing that it will happen is that no, the next thing that will happen is that it will invade another new cells. Invasion of another new cells means initiation of another infection. That's why the patient experienced paroxysms. This is a synchronized rupture of RBC that is seen in a patient with malaria every 72 hours, every 48 hours, and so on. Ano yan? Uh, tawag dito? Synchronized yan. Okay? Then after that, after a number or a series of erythrocytic cycles, what will happen? The merozoites will develop into gametes. Gametes such as the uh, the macrogametocytes, and the microgametocytes that will be ingested by the mosquito. Yun yung na-ingest niya, yung macro and microgametocytes. Na mangyayari naman yung sexual phase of reproduction in our vector. So, ano yung nangyayari? The micro and the macrogametocytes ingested by Anopheles mosquito in the blood meal from the man. So, bakit nagkaroon ng blood meal sa man? Balikan natin ito. Okay? Ito yung nangyari. No? Ito yung nangyari. Nagkaroon tayo ng formation of micro and macrogametocytes. Then the next thing that will happen, makakakagat na naman ang another lamok doon sa infected natin. Okay, nakagat yung ating lamok, nakagat nung lamok. Nagkaroon na naman ng blood meal ang ating lamok na ito. Ingesting the macro and the microgametocytes. And we said that the vector Anopheles mosquito is an important part of the life cycle. Therefore, in the mosquito itself, this will, or the sexual phase will occur. Again, the micro and the macrogametocytes ingested by Anopheles mosquito in the blood meal, okay, ano yung mangyayari? The gametes will be released in the gut. No? The gametes will be released in the gut, no, of our mosquito. Ito yung mangyayari. Maturation of the macrogametocytes by reduction division, exflagellation of the microgametocytes, microgamete and macrogamete unite, then fertilization of the female to form what we called ookinet, no? Ookinet, ookinet, or also known as the zygote. Okay? Ookinet, also known as the zygote. Okay? What will happen? In encystment, no? Magkakaroon ng elongation, encystment, and development of motility by ookinet zygote traveling to vermicule. No, vermicule. Vermicule. Okay? Hanggang sa magkaroon ng penetration until such time that this infectious sporozoites, which is the infective stage, no, of our, localization of many sporozoites in the salivary gland of the mosquito that is awaiting to deliver to the man's bloodstream to ingest or to do a blood meal, depositing this sporozoites. I hope you can follow. That, that is the sexual and asexual phase of the malarial life cycle. Now, for the definition of terms, let's just have a review of what is sporozoites. Again, when we said sporozoites, that is the infective stage of malaria developed in the mosquitoes and transmitted via blood meal to unsuspected human. Cryptozoites is the state of malarial parasite, Plasmodium, that develops directly from the sporozoites during exoerythrocytic stage. Merozoites is the content of fully developed asexual sporozoa, no, produced by both liver cells and RBCs and capable of initiating infections in previously healthy red blood cells. Okay? And when you said exoerythrocytic stage, this is a sexual phase of Plasmodium that occurs in human liver cells. Okay, yan. Synchronized is responsible for the development and maturing of smerozoites. Zygote, fertilized cells, product of union of male and female sex cells. Oocyst is the insect form of zygote that a plasmodium develops in the stomach of Anopheles. Question: what are the morphologic forms or morphological forms of malaria? Madami, no? Actually, this is just your cyst and trophozoite, in fact. Pero madami siya. We have the ring form. We have the developing trophozoites. We have the immature session. We have the mature session. We have the macrogametocyte, and we have the microgametocytes. Now, question is, what is a ring form? Ring form is also known as the early trophozoite form. And from the word itself, ring form, it appears like a ring, no? A ring-like appearance of a parasite. Ano ba yan? Di pa ako nakakakita ng ring. Wala kasing nagbibigay sa'yo eh. Kaya hindi ka nakakakita. Okay lang yan. Meron ka namang makikitang ring form ng malarial parasite. Okay? When stained in gem sa stain, no? Maganda na stained. Mas ma-appreciate mo yung itsura. Okay? When stained in gem sa stain, there is what we call blue cytoplasmic circles connected in the red chromatin. Okay? Later, I'll show you a picture. Okay? With space inside the ring known as the vacuole. So yan. Ganito ang itsura ng ring form. Para naman talagang sing-sing. Okay? The blue one is the cytoplasmic. No? The inner center is your vacuole. And the red dot is your inclusion. Okay? So this is a ring form. Okay? This is a ring form of Plasmodium falciparum. This is a ring form of Plasmodium ovale. Okay? So I have a question. Meaning to say, there is a probability that there will be a multiple infection. The answer is yes. Mostly for ovale and vivax. Okay? Now, how about the developing trophozoites? Developing trophozoites of our malarial parasite varies among Plasmodium species, with remnants of cytoplasmic dot and cytoplasmic circle and chromatin dot intact until the late development. Pigment is primarily brown. Okay? In RBC, invaded is more than that of the ring form. Bakit? Kasi kung babalikan natin ang nakaraan, sana nakakabalik sa nakaraan. The ring form is just like this. Now, inside the red cells, inside the RBC, there is a ring form. Okay? Pero dito, pagpunta natin kay developing trophozoites, yung invasion sa red cells almost full of the red cell. And that is your developing trophozoite. On the other hand, we have the immature session. Immature session is the stage where active chromatin replication occurs. Okay? And take note of this, people of God, that there is a visible cytoplasmic material surrounded by growing chromatin. Okay? Often brown, and there is a continuous multiplication. Then, take note, if you are going to recall, yung ring form, just a ring form formation in the red cells. Yung developing trophozoites invade almost full of the red cells. Now, if we discuss immature session, there is it expands and occupies more space within RBC. Ayan. Ganun na yung itsura ng ating immature session. However, take note of this because the immature session of Plasmodium falciparum is rarely seen in the peripheral blood smear. Okay? The immature session of Plasmodium falciparum is rarely seen in the peripheral blood smear. Moving on to mature session, no, there is what we call the merozoites, which emerge, no, of fully developed stage of asexual sporozoa, and a number vary in each organism. Sa ganun naman, ang ating mature session. Again, the mature session of Plasmodium falciparum is rarely seen in the peripheral blood smear. Ano yung usually nakikita sa peripheral blood smear? Yung ring formation. Okay? Going to microgametocyte, this is the female, no, gametocyte, okay, which appears roundish in shape, with the exemption of Plasmodium falciparum. Bakit naman? Hindi na nga siya nakikita sa immature and mature, hindi na nga nakikita sa peripheral blood smear ang immature and mature session. Pati ba naman ang kanyang microgametocytes is kakaiba? Yes. Why? Because the microgametocytes of our Plasmodium falciparum is crescent shape. Sometimes it is referred to be the banana shape, microgametocyte. Okay? There's a large diffuse chromatin mass and stain pink to purple, surrounded by colorless halo. Okay? Usually visible, distribution vary among species. Ayan. That is an example of the microgametocyte of Plasmodium vivax. Ito naman, yung falciparum, banana shape. Now, how about for macrogametocytes? There is typically the same thing, roundish to oval, except for Plasmodium falciparum, which is again a crescent shape. No, there is a cytoplasmic or chromatin mass, chromatin mass is partially completely surrounded by cytoplasmic material. Okay? Ayan. Banana shape. Micro. Pag sabi sa'yo, banana shape, micro, and macrogametocytes, wala nang iba yan kundi si falciparum. Kasi siya lang naman ang may ganon. Okay? Question, what is the diagnostic test? A diagnostic test for the detection of malaria? The answer on that question is the peripheral stained, the GEMSA stained peripheral blood smear, or also known as the malarial smear or the thick and thin smear. Makikitandaan ha, the thick and thin smear, stained with GEMSA stain. Question once again, the best time for collection of blood for malarial smear, during or after paroxysms? During, kasi doon siya nag-chills, ibig sabihin, there is what we call exoerythrocytic stage. There is what we call the rupture of the red cells that causes the individual to experience chills and fever, which means that the merozoites are starting to invade another red cells. And that is the time wherein you have to collect blood because it will give you an appropriate result of your test. Kasi kung magko-kolekta ka during or after or before the paroxysms, you may not be able to see the parasite. You may, but it's not a guarantee na makikita mo lahat. That's why the appropriate time of collecting blood smear, or malarial smear is after paroxysms or during. Kaso ang hirap naman pag during, nag-chills siya doon. After paroxysms, that's the right time. A question, sir, ano ba yung paroxysms na yan? This is an allergic reaction of an individual to malarial parasite. This is the time when the greatest number of malarial parasite is seen, wherein the patient is experiencing bouts of fever and chills. because of the release of the merozoites and the toxic products from infected RBC. Nag-rupture yung RBC mo eh. E di-release ang ating mga iyan. Take note ha, that is the optimal time of collection. Now, ang tanong, what is the specimen of choice for malarial smear? Eh di blood, peripheral blood smear eh. Yes, you are correct. But what blood? Finger prick blood. Abay, bakit naman finger prick blood? Eh, kasakit naman noon. Diba? Natatandaan ko pa eh, ang arayan ng mga estudyante kapag finger prick blood. Kasakit nga naman. Okay? Yung venipuncture, hindi mo ganun kasakit, pero yung finger prick, tapos not lahat, nagsusulat ka not lahat, ang sakit pa din. Yes, that is the specimen of choice, the finger prick blood. Bakit? Because EDTA may lies our malarial parasite. Okay? So finger prick blood is recommended. Okay, so malarial smear is usually stained with right stain, may also be used, which will give an accurate diagnosis. But if you don't have right stain, GEMSA stain will do. Okay? Both thick and thin smear should be made. Para saan gayang thick and thin na iyan? Thick for screening. Tingnan natin kung may ring form. Thin for differentiating malarial parasites. And take note, it must be studied under oil immersion. So paano ba ginagawa yan? I will provide another lecture or another video on how you are going to make a thick smear and thin smear. Take note of this. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na gusto ko tandaan nyo. Mixed infection with Plasmodium may occur. Malas mo kung nandun silang lahat. Pwede. Okay? Now, question once again. Why is it blood collection for malarial smear is crucial? Eh kasi nga, kung magko-collect ka before paroxysms, mababa yung number of parasite that might not be able for you to detect the parasite. Aside from that, because various morphological forms of the parasite visible at a given time, usually after paroxysms. Okay, and another reason on that is because it depends on the stage of the development. Moving forward, take note. Okay, ano po yung sinasabing take note? It is recommended that blood be collected, every 6 to 12 hours up to 48 hours. And the purpose of that is to detect the different morphological forms of the parasite, of the malarial parasite. Pero okay na yung ring form. Pero okay din kung gagawin mo itong bagay na ito. Okay? Now, what are the other significant tests aside from the peripheral blood smear, aside from the thick and thin smear? Well, of course, serological test will do, but not helpful. Not helpful to rule out malaria in patients suffering from fever of unknown origin. Okay? Polymerase chain reaction to confirm the malarial specification. Ayan. Ito kasi yung ating rapid test kit for malaria. Almost the same principle with your pregnancy test kit. This is now the polymerase chain reaction for the specification of the malarial parasite. Ayan. Question. Typically, patients suffering from malaria is asymptomatic. True or false? True. Wala naman sila masyadong nararamdaman at first glance. Asymptomatic. appears to be healthy, appears to be okay, but hindi pala okay. Okay? Another question. The first clinically significant symptoms experienced by patient with malaria. Ano kaya? Sige, sagot ka dyan kahit hindi kita nakikinig. Kung ang sagot mo paroxysms, tama ikaw. Okay? Again, paroxysms, chills, and rigors for 10 to 15 minutes and a fever that na-excite ako. The fever that lasts for 6 hours. A high fever and chills. No? Yung chills, nanginginig ka, nalalamig ka, 10 to 15 minutes. Okay lang yun, 10 to 15 minutes. Yung iba nga dyan, nalalamig, ang tagal na, hindi mo pa napapansin eh. Fever, hyperthermia, ang taas ng iyong temperature, at nilalagdat ka ng 6 hours. Kasabay ng lagnat na ito, yung chills mo, yung rigors mo. At kahit anong gawin mong balot sa pasyenteng mayroong malaria, nagre-rigor at nag-chills, hindi sila, nanlalamig pa din sila. Kaya kanina lagi kong sabi, pag yung mga bata nilalamig, ano, may malaria ka ba? Kainit-init? Yan pala yung ibig mong sabihin, sir. Oo naman. Okay? Let's move on. Paroxysms is defined as a result of simultaneous rupturing of RBC. Yan, ka-highlight dyan. Simultaneous rupturing of RBC due to merozoites and toxic products. And at the same time, it is considered as a allergic response. Again, ito po ay it varies among species. Okay? More on paroxysms after naman ng fever, ano yung nangyayari sa pasyente? Profuse sweating and extreme fatigue. Okay? As a result of having recrudescence or true relapse, occur with the patient becomes infected with rupturing hepatocytes months to year. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Nawala na, bumalik? Oo. Saya naman, ano, nawawala tapos biglang babalik. Sana all. And this true relapse is seen in vivax and ovale. Okay? Ano ba yung hypnocytes na yan? These are what we call dormant liver cells infected with ovale and vivax. No? That may remains for years or several months. Okay? And when activated, no? When activated, causes malarial relapse. Okay? Causes malarial relapse. Eh, ang tanong, ano bagang ibig sabihin ng dormant? Inactive. Kumbaga natutulog. Hypnocytes are dormant cells that invade the liver cells of an individual who had a malaria for the past several years. And once activated, these hypnozoites, no, feel na feel ko yung lecture, kaya sana feel na feel mo rin dyan makinig. These hypnozoites will be reactivated, nagising na, and will cause relapse malaria. Relapse of malaria. Okay. And when activated, cause malaria. Moving forward, ano yung mga additional symptoms aside from paroxysms? Headache, lethargy, anorexia, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. Teka lang, sir. Diarrhea? Hindi naman siya intestinal parasite? Pwede pala. Pwede. Hindi lahat ng pasyente na mayroong malaria ay mayroong diarrhea. Pero possible. Kaya nga sabi natin, most common infection of parasitic infection, diarrhea. Biruin mo to, red cell ang ini-invade. Nag-cause pa ng diarrhea. Bakit? Because of the allergic reactions. Ischemia is also possible. Ano yung ischemia? Insufficient blood supply in the body tissue caused by the blockage of capillaries. Bakit nagkaroon ng blockage? Okay? Because of the malarial parasite. And then anemia, central nervous system involvement, and even nephrotic syndrome may occur in Plasmodium species. Take note that nephrotic syndrome is commonly seen in patients with Plasmodium falciparum infection. Okay? The deadliest malaria. Question. Malaria may mimic other diseases such as, ano yung mga katulad ng signs and symptoms ng malaria? Number 1, meningitis. Number 2, pneumonia. Number 3, gastroenteritis, kaya meron diarrhea. Number 4, encephalitis or hepatitis. Yan, 4 lang pala. Okay? It mimics. Pag sinabi nating mimics, ginagaya. Kaya sa una, ano yung akala? May meningitis. CSF agad. Pero wala. Akala may pneumonia. Sputum culture. Negative. Nagda-diarrhea kung tingnan, stool exam. Tenderness of the liver. Bakit mayroong tenderness of the liver? Ang may malaria. Kasi nga, yung sporozoites, doon napunta sa liver mo. Doon nag-occur and development at tinatawag nating erythrocytic stage. Okay, that's it. Who are resistant with malarial infection? O, syempre, meron namang ligtas sa kamatayan ng dahil sa malaria. Sino-sino yung mga ligtas sa kamatayan ng dahil sa malaria? Number 1, yung may mga G6PD. Okay? Huwag nang mainggit. Number 2, yung may mga thalassemias or hemoglobinopathies and Duffy blood group negative. And of course, South Africans. Puro na sila dyan. Huwag na tayong mainggit. Bakit? Ano yung meron, ito yung sabi, bakit yung mga South Africans ay resistant sa malarial infection? Kasi may natural immunity daw sila. Nakitahan, no? Nakitaan ang mga South Africans ng natural immunity against malaria. Yun nga lang, meron silang sleeping sickness, West African and East African. Pero yung mga South Africans, they are free or they are resistant with malarial infection. Okay? Next. What do we mean by recurrent chills and fever? Recurrent, pabalik-balik, synchronized rupture of red cells. Kaya meron ganito. Every 36 hours, si Plasmodium falciparum, ano yung tawag sa kanya? Si Malignant Tertian Malaria. Every 48 hours, sino? Si Plasmodium ovale, ano yung tawag sa kanya? Ovale benign Tertian Malaria. And we have the Plasmodium vivax benign Tertian Malaria. And every 72 hours, ito matagal, okay? Plasmodium malariae. Quartan malaria. Ito, this is not the right time for me to tell this mnemonic. But since naririto na naman itong mga malariang ito, I will grab the opportunity to tell this. Hindi ka nag-parasitology kung hindi mo alam ang mnemonics na ito. Hindi naging masaya ang parasitology mo kung hindi mo alam ang mnemonics na ito. Plasmodium falciparum. Okay? Plasmodium ovale, Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium malariae. Umpisahan natin kay Plasmodium ovale. O J, V, S, M, Z, F, M. Iban yung mga mnemonics na yan. Falciparum, ovale, vivax, malariae. Okay? Falciparum, ovale, vivax, malariae. Maurers, Janes, Schaffners, Zeymans. Please take a look doon sa module nyo. Ito yung table doon. Yung mga dots na makikita sa red cells. Maurers dot, falciparum. James, ovale. Pwede ding Schaffners. Pero mas maganda James para mayroong distinction. Schaffners, vivax. Zeyman, malariae. Ano yung mnemonics dyan? Ferdinand Marcos, falciparum maurers. OJ, ovale, James, orange juice. VS, vivax, Schaffners, Vilma Santos. MZ, Malariae, Zeymans, Manila Zoo. Inuulit ko, kung hindi mo to alam, hindi ka nagparasitology. Kaya dapat alam mo siya. Okay? Every 36 hours, falciparum. Every 48 hours, OV. Every 72 hours, M. 36F, 48 OV, 72M. Okay? 36F, 48 OV, 72M. Question again. Malarial species that can cause death or severe form of malaria. Paulit-ulit. Ito lumalabas din daw to sa board exam ng mga pharmacist. Ang sagot, Plasmodium falciparum. Okay? Disease associated with falciparum malaria. Take note. Number 1, cerebral malaria. Number 2, black water fever. Iba po yung black fever sa black water fever. Black fever, Donovani. Leishmania donovani. Black water fever, falciparum. Plasmodium falciparum. Bakit black water fever? Meron tayo ditong hemoglobinuria. Bakit nagra-rupture ang RBC? Nalalives. Okay? Next, what is cerebral malaria? Cerebral malaria is a condition that affected a condition, ano yan, naging at na ang sir. A condition that involves the brain, ano ba yan? The brain. Okay, the red cells, organisms, and the pigments block the brain vessels, which can cause be the most severe neurological complication of an infection with Plasmodium falciparum. A patient with cerebral malaria is characterized by a coma and a sexual form of parasite on the peripheral blood sphere. Now, how about black water fever? Again, black water fever is a sudden, massive intramuscular hemolysis, which is a result, which will result into hemoglobinuria. Okay, that's why mayroong involvement of nephrotic syndrome. Question again. Malarial organism that is most widely distributed and infection occurs worldwide, si Plasmodium vivax. That's why even here in the Philippines, mayroong vivax. Disease associated with Plasmodium vivax at the benign tertian malaria. Malaria. Every 48 hours ang synchronized rupture ng RBC. Okay? Benign tertian malaria, 10 to 17 days ang incubation period. Mimics, nausea, vomiting, headache, muscle pain, and photophobia. Sino may photophobia? Doon mayroon sa infection sa CNS. Sino? Malaria. Tama. Very good. Paroxysms, 48 hours. If untreated, may attack after several years, hypnozoites, yung dormant cells sa liver. Meron bang chronic infection si vivax? Meron. Chronic infection occurs what? Or includes what? Brain damage, liver and kidney damage, tissue hypoxia, and ischemia. Okay? Next, what is the appearance, ano ba yan? Appearance of infected red cells with vivax. Larger than normal, pale, often viscere, and that is what we call Schaffner's dot are often present. Okay? So this is just the dito, structure of the morphological forms of each parasite. So, okay na yan. Plasmodium species, which is different to differentiate with vivax. Eh di si ovale, parehas nga silang 48 hours eh. Parehas nga silang benign tertian malaria. No? At parehas nga rin silang meron no? Schaffner's dot. Si ovale nga lang, minsan ang tawag, James dot. Orange juice. Plasmodium ovale, no? Different to distinguish from vivax because of their remarkable similarities. Maturation is ultimately morphologic form of choice for examination. Yan. Tropical Africa is the epidemiology. Ayun. So meron din siyang dormant liver cells. Okay. What are the mostly seen morphological forms of Plasmodium malariae? The developing trophozoite, the mature and immature session. Plasmodium malariae epidemiology is in subtropic and temperate regions. Ito of 18 to 40 days ang kanyang incubation period. And then cyclic paroxysms, 72 hours. Okay. Ito naman, no known relapse. Hindi kagaya ni ovale at saka ni vivax. Pero, meron siyang repeated attacks that may occur for 20 years or more. Okay? Treatment, same as vivax. Almost pare-parehas lang naman sila ng treatment eh. Chloroquine. Okay? And we are down to the last one, Plasmodium falciparum, mild and severe form, will exhibit ring form of the malarial parasite in the peripheral bloodstream. May infect RBC at any age, young or adult. Relapse are not known to occur. Yun nga lang, no? Deadliest, pero walang relapse, unlike the other one. Hypnozoites are not produced in the liver cells of the host. Walang dormant cell, walang dormant liver cells. Okay? What else? 50% of the red cell population may invade. Schizogony appears in the capillaries and sinuses. Yan. Occurs in late summer and every autumn. Thus the name Estovo-automal malaria, and needs warmer months to reproduce. These are just nice to know. Seasonal, limited tropical and subtropical regions, pwede sa Pilipinas kasi tropical country po tayo. Ayan, blackwater fever and malignant tertian malaria. Incubation period, 7 to 10 days. Yung iba matatagal, no? Tumatagal ng 40 days, 17 days. Ito ay 7 to 10 days. Exhibit flu-like symptoms at first. Daily episodes of chills and fever, diarrhea, nausea, and vomiting. Cyclic paroxysms, 36 to 48 hours, usually 36 hours. Okay. And the last one is the Plasmodium knowlesi, which is the parasite of old world monkeys. No? Malaysia and Southeast Asia, kita po ito, nakikita po yung Plasmodium knowlesi natin. Typically resembles Plasmodium malariae and may resemble also Plasmodium falciparum. None. How about in the Philippines? Malarial cases in the Philippines, 65 out of 78 provinces in the Philippines are endemic to malaria. And a total of 111.3 million Filipinos are at risk of the disease. In 2000, there are a total of 536 deaths are reported caused by malaria. Still, one of the top 10 leading causes of morbidity po ito, hindi morbidity in the country. Yan. If we are going to compare malaria to TB and HIV, yan, meron din po tayong cases of malaria sa Pilipinas. Of course, TB, neglected tropical diseases din iyan. Ay di ayan, ang condition. This is the mortality rate, neonatal, no, and under 5 mortality rate. This is in case of malaria. Na? Kagaya ng sinabi natin, there are provinces with high endemicity or endemic ang ating malarial parasites. And there are 5 provinces na endemic ang malaria. Palawan, Mindoro, Kalinga, Apayao, Ifugao, Agusan. Kamika, Ifag. Ano? Kamika, Ifag. Inong pa, mi, ka, ifag. O bahala na kayo kung anong gusto ng mnemonics. Basta ayan po yun. Famika, Ifag. Okay? Palawan, Mindoro, Caliga, Apayao, Ifugao, and Agusan del Sur, not Agusan del Sur are places in the Philippines wherein malaria is endemic. Okay? Malaria in the Philippines causes multi-drug resistant have been reported in Davao del Norte, Compostela Valley, and Palawan. More than 7% of malaria in the Philippines is caused by Plasmodium falciparum. Kawawang Pilipinas. May malaria na nga, deadliest pa. And the remaining 30% is caused by vivax. Okay? Peak transmission occurs at the beginning at the end of rainy season. Now, what is the causative? I want to make it clear, not causative agent. The vector. Yan. The vector of malaria in the Philippines is Anopheles minimus varians flavirostris. Ayan. Lahat ng nagparasitology sa akin, alam na alam po ito. Anopheles minimus varians flavirostris. That is the vector of malaria in the Philippines. And in coastal areas of Sulu, we have the Anopheles littoralis. Parang kayo, lito na. No? Anopheles littoralis. And that is your Anopheles minimus varians flavirostris. Thank you very much, and scan the code and give me your mark. I hope you learn.